Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play parenting. This week, we're looking at the role of sports as a game changer for more than just the scoreboard. Sports teach kids to show up, work hard, support their teammates, and keep going when things get tough. Because sports aren't just about trophies and highlight reels. They're about raising kids who know how to win with grace, lose with grit, and bounce back stronger every single time. And parents, we're giving you the tools to turn every practice, every game, and even those car rides home into moments that build character, resilience, and substance-free futures. So let's hit the field, because the lessons your kids learn in the game can shape the way they play the game of life. New season, new stories, same honest conversations. Welcome to Awkward Conversations. And I'm so happy to introduce Amy McCarthy, my lovely co-host for Awkward Conversations. She is a senior clinical social worker at Boston Children's Hospital in the Division of Addiction Medicine.
Hey, Jodie. I'm so excited about today's episode because we've got 3 amazing guests who are experts in making sports a positive force in kids' lives. First up is Kelly Cornett, a health scientist with the CDC's Division of Adolescent and School Health. Kelly helps schools across the country put research into practice, designing programs that make physical activity part of the school day, strengthen student connectedness, and support both physical and mental well-being. A former 3-sport athlete herself, she's carried a lifelong commitment to wellness into her public health career, guiding evidence-based strategies that help kids thrive inside and outside the classroom. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
And also with us today is Jeff McCann, an athletic counselor by trade and at heart for 25 years. And he's also the co-founder and executive director of the AthLife Foundation, an organization that works with middle and high schools to provide the right kind of sports experience for kids through the creation and development of academic athletic coaches and high-impact holistic student-athlete development programming. Jeff, how are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm great. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And in studio with us today, we've got someone whose journey is going to inspire both parents and kids, Spencer Paysinger. He's a Super Bowl winning NFL linebacker, the inspiration behind and executive producer of the hit TV series All American, and a passionate advocate for using sports as a platform to teach leadership, resilience, and opportunity building for youth. Welcome, Spencer.
Thank you for having me. It's going to be a pleasure to talk.
Absolutely, absolutely. I would love to hear a little bit from everyone about your background growing up and how sports figured into your life. Jeff, I know that you have the AthLife Foundation. Could you tell us a little bit about how you came to find athletics in your life?
Sports was prominent when I was growing up. We played everything. My father ran sports leagues. He coached. So it was really ingrained. I joke a lot. I was the most average, mediocre athlete on the planet. So it was just more my growing up experience, not something that I took seriously. But we did learn some really valuable lessons, and a couple of them just pop out that affect me today. There's nothing more important than the team. You've got to maximize effort through the final whistle. And basically, you always root for the underdog. Unless, of course, it's a Philadelphia sports team that's playing. That's what I learned growing up.
In Boston, we'd agree.
Yes.
Listen, having played for the Giants, I agree.
Sorry, Philadelphia. We love you, too. We do love you.
Yes, we love you, Philly. Kelly, it was mentioned that you were a 3-sport athlete. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background in sports?
I wasn't in the NFL or anything like that, but I did play 3 sports growing up, and I came from a really active family. We're talking family hikes, canoe trips. I grew up in Minnesota. We were outside a lot, snowboarding, that kind of thing. But in high school, I played tennis, basketball, and I threw discus in track and field, and I was captain of 2 of those teams. So when I was thinking about skills, I think about all the leadership skills I learned. I learned responsibility and having to be interacting with my friends. I made some of the best friends through these teams. So I spent my entire high school career in sports, and I loved it so much.
Fabulous. And Spencer, we know a lot about you, but why don't you give us a little bit of background how sports factored into your life?
I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, so it's been made notorious by a handful of films over the years. But for me, growing up, it was all about playing sports at Van Ness Park. I played basketball, baseball, and football since I was 3 years old. It was being at the park from 8 a.m. in the morning to 5 p.m. at night. You're going swimming when you're not on the baseball diamond, you're on the basketball court, you're playing tennis, you're doing anything possible just to stay active. And considering the neighborhood that I'm from, there's definitely a lot of dangers in the area. So being at that park, playing the sports that I played, it allowed for such exploration of just sport, of community, of learning how to goal set, of learning how to set that goal and reach it, but then also how to bounce back when you don't reach that goal, how to become better after learning from a loss. Going from Van Ness Park into high school and primarily prioritizing football over the other sports, it just allowed me to continue to be team focused, team oriented, understanding that as long as we're working towards a common goal, like that's the true mission of it all. Yeah.
Absolutely. Such important life skills, and resiliency is, as we've talked about, key to building a sustainable, lifelong love of trying and maybe failing sometimes. Sometimes you just have to keep trying.
Thank you to everyone for sharing their experiences. Maybe all of you could tell us a little bit more about how those experiences shape the work that you do today, currently, and what those kind of roles look like. Maybe we'll start with you, Kelly.
I was always doing sports that was always combined with my academic journey. And so when I went off to college, I ended up studying kinesiology and exercise science. And then I even went on to do my master's degree in exercise physiology. And it was really in the middle of my graduate program that I did an internship at the Centers for Disease Control. So it moved me into public health. And that's what I get to do now. I work in the school health branch. I work in the Division of Adolescent and School Health here at Centers for Disease Control. And we work with states and communities to have them integrate physical activity into their programming, into their environments, and safe and supportive environments where people can be active.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Jeff, how about you?
Yeah, I think I want to lean into the whole underdog thing, right? I learned very early on that any kid from any circumstance or any upbringing really has an opportunity to change his or her trajectory in their life through a positive activity like sports. So that kind of drove me early on in my career, and I worked in mental health and early on, and then landed in this life-altering experience in New Haven, Connecticut at a high school, James Hillhouse High School, and I became an athletic academic counselor and really got to see that kind of play out, like right in front of me. The kids were amazing. Spencer, you mentioned the tough community that you grew up in, the whole, if you're getting counted out, I want to be in your corner. If somebody doesn't think you're going to make it, that's who we are. The AthLife Foundation, that's at our core. So I think that really inspired me to be where we are today and have this opportunity to really give back through this platform we have.
That's so inspiring. That's pretty incredible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Jeff, I love your rooting for the underdog. Can you tell us a little bit more about what AthLife is and what you guys do there?
The AthLife Foundation is 16 years old, and we're basically a resource platform for high schools and middle schools. So we provide grant funding, training, and other best practice resources for educators all over the country to create and develop what we call academic athletic coaches. So once the academic athletic coach positions are established inside of a school, then they can develop these wonderful high impact program pieces. So we're talking a little bit about the life skills stuff and the leadership stuff, and Spencer touched on it early in his intro. But really, that is what we do, and we see tremendous results across the board in schools all over. The position becomes such a value add to a school staff, and it's a culture changer. And that tends to have a ripple effect across an entire student body.
Absolutely. And Spencer, I know you transitioned from your NFL career into producing creative content that's really inspired by your sports journey. What has that been like to get to share that with the world?
It's been a whirlwind. From the moment I retired in, let's say, December 2017 to getting All-American up sub 4 or 5 months later, a lot of people ask, what was that transition period like? But I always go back to the idea that All-American would not exist if I was not a good teammate. That was something that I'm in a new environment. I'm understanding that I maybe have not worked in this ecosystem before, but as a teammate, as a good teammate, as a team member, being able to problem solve, being able to fill a need if possible, being able to communicate effectively with my teammates, that now I'm not with linebackers and DNs and stuff, I'm with producers and writers and line producers and stuff.
Yeah.
It really, that, especially that first year, being able to look at these positions and go, oh, this is just like playing on the field. They're asking a job from me. If I don't know how to do it, I ask questions. If I know how to do it and can possibly help somebody else, I help somebody else.
Absolutely. TV and film production is definitely a team sport. You are not doing it by yourself. And that's such a great point also that you bring up, which we were talking about that this isn't about necessarily becoming the next Spencer Paysinger and joining the NFL. This is about building up those skills that you learn. How can sports benefit kids who maybe aren't natural athletes? Maybe, your kid is the one in the little league game that's like picking the flowers. Cool. Like, how do we help support those kids who maybe feel a little bit intimidated by sports?
There's so many skills that kids can learn from sports. The idea of being resilient, the idea of taking no and still being able to move forward, of not having that be the final verdict for your story. Being able to be good teammates and communicate effectively to your teammates and even your family. I found myself, when it comes to the job that I'm able to do on the field, is one-for-one comparison to the job that I'm doing at home or in my new line of work. So when it comes to kids learning what they can learn when it comes to sports, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah. And Jeff, I'm sure you see a lot of that in your mentorship program that you have.
Just to add to what Spencer was talking about with the off the field skills, the transferable life and leadership skill development. I think one of the first priorities here for any coach or a parent even is that you've got to be intentional about teaching those life and leadership skills off the field of play in other life domains and helping kids make that bridge back to the skills that they're learning. Jodie, you're describing the kid picking flowers. There's a chance that he's not going to be batting leadoff, right? But he's probably learning some great coping skills, right? On accepting his role and being a good teammate and all those things Spencer was alluding to. A lot of our work here is high school and middle school. The focus is on the academic achievement and improvement. It's the creating the opportunities after high school, which is a very small percentage of kids will go on and pursue the path that Spencer pursued. It almost turns into what Kelly's experience was like. The majority of the kids that we work with will just go on to do other things. So what are they learning about in those teams and in those times playing sports that is going to catapult them to achieve later on in life? We do see the great improvement is the biggest thing that we see when programs are in place at the high school and middle school level. But there's also this leadership and life skill development aspect and the post-high school planning and their career development really are the things that kind of pop out. And then there's community leadership and community impact.
Absolutely. And Kelly, I'm sure the CDC has done lots of research on what physical activity really does and how it helps young people.
That's what makes me really excited, because with the research that we do, we're looking at the whole child. We're looking at not just the physical aspect, but how physical activity can improve their mood, their emotional well-being, their social skills. And we see that through physical activity. We know that those are really important channels and a mechanism. It can almost accelerate learning these other skills that will then last a lifetime, in addition to getting all the physical benefits that we know come from living an active lifestyle. So we like to study how schools and communities can implement programs and practices that create more access for all students, not just the elite athletes to be active. We want all students to find activities that are enjoyable, that then they build a love for being active, so then they can continue to reap those benefits as they age and leave the school environment.
There's like such an opportunity for identity formation through sports too. And like my own experience was I had an older brother who played sports. I wanted to be just like my older brother and got to play hockey and soccer and basketball. And I hated all of those. But I also played softball. And that was like a space where I found joy, like in moving my body. And I did dance class. And that was a space where I found joy in moving my body. But there's such an opportunity to try on different versions of yourself through all of these different activities. And again, like you said, Kelly, find what helps literally move you, like figuratively and literally, in a way that just sustains your mental health and your well-being in the long run.
I wanted to be just like my older brother. And growing up, I wanted to play basketball. And a lot of people don't know this, but that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to UNC. I wanted to be like Michael Jordan and then play with Kobe Bryant. But when I got to high school, I was seeing the attention to detail that my brother had for football. I was seeing him respect the sport, and that made me fall in love with the sport as well, as watching essentially my first mentor in my older brother showing love, respecting it, and doing it the right way.
Yeah, it's really true. Finding what moves you in every sense of the word, whether it's dance, whether it's sports, any kind of movement is really good for young people. And we've talked about some of the pitfalls of parents really pushing sports on their kids. And that's absolutely the wrong way to go about finding sports benefits for your kids. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what mentorship does for young people and how that can really have a huge positive impact on finding whatever it is that they're passionate about.
So one thing that is really exciting to me that I've learned about is the Search Institute does research on protective factors for young people, 40 protective assets. And the number one thing they come back to is having a caring adult in your life. So it's wonderful if that's your parent, your caregiver, your family of origin. But the kind of exciting news is that even if for some reason your family of origin can't be that for you, that any caring adult can make that impact. And I just think that's such an important thing to keep in mind. And sometimes our parents and caregivers aren't the right person at the right to be that person. So bolstering the community of mentors, like you said, your older brother or somebody from like the AthLife Foundation can be so important. What do you think about that, Spencer?
Yeah, for me, I think mentors allow a young kid to understand what is possible. It's allowing them to hold their hand and walk them through a process of, if you're seeking a mentor, you don't know everything about that space. But being open and honest with saying, hey, I would love somebody to be soft with me, to teach me where to go, how to be, how to operate in this new space. For me, specifically, like mentors have been paramount in my development, both on and off the field.
It's like a hope installation or kind of a glimpse into what your future could be in some ways, a little bit. Jeff, what about at AthLife? Tell us a little bit more about how mentors play that pivotal role with these young people.
Yeah, so, first we use positive youth development research, and it identifies 3 key things for a mentor to have, and it's empathy, high positive expectations, and advocacy. So if you're a parent out there looking for who a mentor can be, you're looking for those qualities. And the real benefit that we see, once that's in place, then the trusting relationship, the mutual respect and the trusting relationship can evolve. But the real benefit we see with some of our work is when you take the young people and then put them in spaces where they can become an external asset or a mentor to somebody else. So then they're developing those empathetic, high expectation skills and advocacy skills for the young people that they're impacting. So it's that one level down mentoring that can be very powerful.
I've watched my daughter, my older daughter plays soccer and is involved in athletics, and she loves helping out at the summer camp at her school for the younger soccer players. It really instills a sense of purpose and giving back, and it's just such an incredible experience. And how do sports help prevent some of those risky behaviors? What are the ways that sports really builds character, resilience?
I really like already that we've brought up a key topic that goes through a lot of our work these days in our division. You mentioned protective factors. That's something we're really studying about behaviors that then are protective against some of the other health conditions that we know are risky behaviors or the prevalence of those behaviors. And so the good news is that being involved in physical education, being on a sports team, being more active in general, we actually have seen that is improving and increasing a sense of school connectedness. And school connectedness is a protective factor. So when we see all these different ways, if you have that emotional connection, you feel that peer support, there might be a coach or a parent or a teacher that cares about you and you feel connected to, we're seeing that be an incredible overall health benefit.
I think I see this all the time in my work that not everyone, in the same way I perhaps wasn't a natural athlete and so many, not everyone is like a natural academic student either. And like you said, like the school connectedness piece to know like maybe I love playing on my school's basketball team and that drives me to show up to school because it's exciting to me. I think, again, like you said, can make all the difference for a young person sometimes. Or I know that I'm going to go to a school and my athletic mentor is going to be there to make sure, call me, make sure, why aren't you here? There's a difference when I'm not here. It's felt. My presence is important here. Who wouldn't want that or benefit from that?
It's the idea of accountability as well. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times where friends, teammates and whatnot would ask me to stay out late or come to a party or do such and such. And it's no, I have practice in the morning or that's going to affect my play on the field. And it just goes back to the idea that when you're on a team, you're pretty much signing a contract to say, I'm going to be the best person I can be, the best teammate I can be. And anything that deviates from that is not part of the plan.
I hear a lot of young people too saying, can't go out tonight. I've got a game in the morning, or my coach is going to be on me. And again, delaying that first or that continual use of substances is gigantic for the brain.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that often talk on the show about sometimes like you can tell your kid like, I'm your mom and your mom said he can't go. Use me as your excuse. Sports also is another healthy excuse. Oh, I've got a game tomorrow. It's an acceptable kind of reason to be like, okay, that's fine.
And it also helps teenagers understand the process of delayed gratification. And as we know, adolescents, that long-term thinking and strategy is something that their brains are still working at. So being able to have sports as something that teaches them, if I really say no to something now, it's going to help me in the future.
Good practice.
Yes, good practice at practice. Welcome back to Awkward Conversations, and welcome to Season 5.
Saving lives means staying informed. Knowing the dangers of using fake prescription pills can help those you care about and keep our community safe. As a parent, educator, neighbor, or friend, we all play a role in building safe and healthy futures for ourselves and our loved ones. Do your part to take the first step today. Visit GetSmartAboutDrugs.com to access education, prevention, and treatment resources. Fake prescription pills laced with fentanyl are deadly. Be their protector. Be informed. Visit GetSmartAboutDrugs.com.
You're listening to Awkward Conversations. Thanks for being here. Sports, not only physical activity, all of that is great, but kids don't really have a lot of places to go in between school and home anymore. I know that they talk about it being the third space.
It was a release. When you're at home, you have your duties at home of being a good son, a good brother. When you're at school, it's all about academics. But when you step on that field, when you go to that park, there's that physical release, there's that emotional release to where you know you're going to sweat a little bit, you're going to have fun, you're going to be present in the moment. And I feel like because there's not a lot of third spaces as it was maybe when we were coming up, kids need that now more than ever. They need that release. They need to be able to know that they can go and just be themselves and be present and be in the moment playing the sport of their choice.
Yeah. Be in the moment and off social media.
Absolutely.
There's just so much pressure all around.
Yeah, there really is. And speaking of that pressure, I know we're talking about encouraging kids to play sports. What are some of the toxic sports environments or coaches that actually can do more harm than good when it comes to leading kids into sports or any kind of physical activity?
We're opening cans of worms over here. But I'm even thinking about just holistically the concept of how can we help students and families find those opportunities to be active and maybe even active together. So we think about that framework, and you have physical education, you have the before and after school programming, you have the during school in the classroom learning through movement. You can do all of these things. That the other core components of that is staff involvement and family and community engagement. Because we know that the school can only do so much in the hours of the day and then with the weekend. So the healthy programs that we see, it's having that connection with the community, having the open communication with parents, and helping that be a collective goal. So the schools can really be influencers on that, and the coaches can be part of that as well. And I think the more that you foster that open communication and instilling those healthy practices, I think it becomes a group effort. And we like to see it be a community engagement and family engagement practice as well.
Have you ever had any toxic coaches in your life, or maybe mentors that you're like, this isn't bringing out the best in me?
How much time do we have?
Publicly about,
How much time do we have? I say I've been fortunate enough to have both good and bad coaches because it's allowed me to understand where I would want to be in that situation, where I want to be when I'm a mentor, when I'm a coach coaching. I'm at the age now where I'm coaching my daughter, I'm coaching my son. So I'm pulling on my past experience of, hey, I remember when my coach yelled at me, I didn't really feel too well. Or then I remember when I was possibly supposed to be yelled at because maybe I did something wrong over and over again. So there's definitely that conversation of push and pull and whether or not to push or pull in those certain situations. But yeah, trust me, I've had a lot of coaches that I will not name on this platform, but just know I've seen it all.
Yeah, I think that it's all about really knowing your kid and knowing if that coach's style aligns with them. Some kids, like you said, respond to a little bit more drive, a little bit harsher. Let's go. And some kids need it a little bit softer. And if that coach really isn't connecting with your kid like that, it can sometimes do more damage than good. Or if you're pushing your kids into sports. I remember that, seeing it in my neighborhood growing up. My across the street neighbor, the kid did not want to play baseball, but dad made him play baseball. And that didn't really help his love of baseball.
No, I would think
Yeah.
not. I would think not. I even remember this episode's like transporting me back to middle school and high school in so many ways, and in great ways, but having coaches that were just really not helpful and healthy to my mental health, but also coaches who made all the difference in the world.
Yep.
Again, with the older kids, and then I've had two. I have a 22 and a 16, and they went through the high school sport experience. But I think back to that point you were making, does the coach, the style align to your kid? But Spencer, you just indicated that you got something out of the good and the bad coaches. So I think the line you're trying to balance here is like, is any irreversible harm being done? What is happening? Is it egregious? Is it irreversible harm? Or is it just a person that your kid is having a hard time dealing with? Because if you go to college or you're in the workforce, or these difficult people are going to be there.
I tell my kids that all the time.
Right. So is the opportunity, okay, this is just a bad coach for my kid. Okay, so now what can I do as a parent? I can help them develop coping skills. I can help them develop their communication skills. I can help them develop their self-confidence in working with adults that are difficult. So you have to talk it out too with other parents to see, is their kid having the same experience? Because you're right, Spencer, like some of these coaches are they're very transactional and they're trying to squeeze stuff out of you. But where are the transformational coaches? There's probably a balance. There's a great number of transformational coaches out there and a great number of hybrid transactional coaches out there. And depending on the sport, you need it. Like Spencer, football's just different.
Absolutely.
So I think for parents, the hard part is trying to evaluate whether or not my child is in harm's way immediately. But the older they get, I think there's a skill building opportunity there.
Absolutely. And we know, as much as we want to support our kids in sports and athletics, that the reality of them going on to play professional sports is probably pretty low. According to some statistics, about 7% of U.S. high school athletes go on to compete in NCAA college sports. So that's 1 in 13. Then less than 2% of high school athletes reach Division I levels in the NCAA, and under 2% of those NCAA athletes go pro. So this is not about creating the next LeBron James or Shohei Ohtani. This is about instilling, like Jeff talked about, the growth mindset, the communication skills, the responsibility and the accountability. I just want to really also tell parents and make sure that they understand that it's not about making sure your kid is the best. It's about making sure that they show up and know how to be a team member and advocate for themselves and say, hey, I want to play this. Okay, if you want to do that, what are you willing to do?
I also think about, I'm going to share a sad moment for me, which was that I played softball all the way up until high school. And then in high school, got cut from the team. And it was so rough and devastating at the time. But that team aspect, again, kept me going in terms of being like, maybe I'll be the team manager, which at the time seemed like sad. But I was like, no, I love this team so much. I love this sport so much. And there's other ways to get involved. There's so many ways to build community in sports too, like rooting for the same team. Again, I live in Boston where like sports are life. And so be that bond of we're Red Sox fans. I just think that builds relationships and bonds in ways that a lot of other things people don't rally around in the same way.
Yeah. And speaking of kids getting cut from teams or injured, how do we help kids keep the benefits of all of the good things that sports brings and maybe direct them into other areas that build some of those same skills and confidence?
I'm actually thinking from my personal experience with this, setbacks are part of the game. You have wins, you have losses. This is also part of that life skill learning that not everything's going to go the way you want it to go. And sports taught me personally that. But I also tore my ACL. I had a knee injury right after high school, and it completely flipped my perception. For me personally, I had a lot of identity in my sports participation. That's who I was. I was the 3-sport athlete. That's what I did. So now maybe I couldn't do what I did. And so I try to think about reframing those types of setbacks into opportunities. And now I look back, I'm doing lots of activities. It's not what I did when I was a senior in high school, but I'm still loving the benefits of physical activity, the community aspects, the social support I get through being active. I speed walk. I play a lot of golf. Like I found these communities that are still in active ways. And I think it's so fun to encourage families, their parents, students, that activity can be varied. There isn't one thing that you need to be doing. Any movement is better than nothing. So
Right.
if you find something that you love and it might change as you get older for all types of circumstances, you can still benefit from being active no matter what it is that you enjoy.
Yeah, even as an adult, that sense of play is really important. You and I were talking earlier about how sometimes, you'll be, I don't know, a baby shower, whatever it is, or you'll just be at a friend's thing and they start playing games and you see how excited and into it even adults get. And building that with your family and with your kids and being like, I'm excited about movement or hiking or whatever it might be. Let's be excited about this together.
And if you can instill in your child the sense that, like you said, Kelly, like this movement is about joy. For so many of these people, 2% going to Division I sports teams, it's more about how can you build a lifelong relationship with movement that is joyful.
And really anything that you're passionate about. Whether
Absolutely.
It's music, writing, volunteering, being out and active and in your community it's such an important thing. And I find that kids that play sports or on dance teams or whatever it might be, that when they're involved in those things, they are much more likely to get out and want to do more and want to be more of a part of their community. And speaking of doing things together, how can sports really help relationship building amongst families? I'd love to speak to that a little bit.
Specifically for myself, when it comes to building relationships through sports, I look at my young son. My son Madden is 6 years old, and he's really dove into just every sport he can touch at this point. So he often sees me down in our garage working out, stretching, doing just little things here and there. And he's so intrigued that his father, his old man, is in and active. So it's allowing him to further discover how he can use his body, how he can mimic his dad in certain movements and such. But in terms of just that connection, whenever you have that, something as simple as throwing a ball back and forth, that's a connection that's being made between two people that can eventually build that bridge through movement, through sports. It's unlike anything.
Yeah.
We talk about a lot the car being such a magical place for conversations to unfold with your children. And I think, like you said, like playing catch or through some of these physical activities too, sometimes it's a little bit like disarming to a young person that's so serious or so intense. Or like we're just throwing the ball back and forth. How was your day? And you're learning things about each other that maybe you wouldn't learn otherwise. And I also think that there's an opportunity for parents to try on new and different activities like with their kids and show their kids that like there's always the opportunity, always a chance to learn something new or try something new.
Even if you're not good at it.
Exactly.
Because I'm
Even
pretty sure at
more so
43,
than
there
that.
are probably a lot more things that I'm not good at that I was when I was 16.
And sometimes they can be really good at it and you're like, check you out. Yeah. But I think like sometimes we think about soccer, baseball, like we think of the like these kind of maybe 10 like sports that are like, but there's so many, like maybe you go try fencing, like maybe you go try things that I can't even imagine right now.
I've done a yoga class with my daughters.
Yeah.
During the pandemic when there were a lot of online ones, I was like, let's do yoga together in the living room. And that it's so important because now my younger daughter is 15 and she'll see me get off the Peloton and she's like, can I get on there? I'm like, sure, go. You want to go for it. But it's really vital and it's really key. And that community and connection with parents, family, mentors is really what the benefit of sports and passion is all about.
Amy and Jodie, you make some really good points about the parent bonding and the community connection and the protective factors that keep coming up here, a common theme. And earlier we were talking about these off-time transitions like getting cut or injured. So all of those things that you described, like having a variety of different activities that you can engage in with your kids, become those protective factors. Because when somebody gets cut from a team or gets injured, there's an identity loss there, a piece of their identity loss. So in order to protect against that, you've got to work early and often on exposing kids to a bunch of different things so they can learn about themselves in different ways outside of that major identity. Because it's a hit. Kelly, your identity took a hit. Now, I'm sure like you got cut. Amy, that stinks.
It hurts.
Yeah, it is. It burns.
Hurts.
But the identity foreclosure piece is critical, especially when you get to Spencer's level. So when the better you are at sport, the more narrow your opportunities get to engage in exploratory behavior outside of sport. Spencer, when you got to D1 and then boom into the league, like you had no wiggle room to experience any of that. So then you're in the league and then you're transitioning out So how do you manage that transition because you lost a piece of your identity? So the AthLife Foundation concentrates their work at the high school and middle school space, but we really were born out of AthLife Inc., which is a career development education service provider for professional and post-professional athletes.
Yeah, even my experience with AthLife has been tremendous. They've allowed me to pretty much give me the skills to keep my scope open. Because Jeff said, the higher you ascend in your sport, both college and then into the NFL and the various pro sports, your scope starts to get a little bit more closed because you focus on the main thing and allowing the main thing to be the main thing. But what AthLife allowed me to do is, again, to keep that scope open, to understand that I was somebody off the field. I was still a person off the field. I was still a community member off the field. So just allowing me to have that language to transition off the field when I did. Now, with AthLife, they've even offered a scholarship for me to go back to school to get my master's. And I'm starting that up, actually, I think next week, depending on when this drops.
Congrats.
So they've been paramount in my development off the field. So I'm eternally grateful to you guys over there.
Yeah, AthLife Inc. and AthLife Foundation they do such incredible work. And yeah, Kelly, the CDC, and all of the studies that you guys do about how physical activity is so important. I'm just so glad that you were able to join us today. And Spencer, of course, thank you so much. I'd love to give you a last minute. We'll start with Kelly to wrap things up. Let us know where we can find more information. And of course, all the information listed will be in the show notes. So if you're looking for more, make sure you go there. Kelly, why don't you tell us a little bit about what is out there for people to find?
Thank you so much for having me today. This conversation, it just reminds me why we do what we do. Thank you for being active in your communities and spreading this message. We do a lot of promotion of what we're learning from the research and then translating that science into practice. And so I encourage people to have communication in their communities, open that dialogue between the community and the school, with your coaches, with your teachers. We see that connectiveness so important for implementing these types of programs and supporting an active school environment. I also want to reiterate the importance that we see across all of our programming: student voice. Ask the students what they want, see what they like, see what they don't. We really want to encourage positive early experiences with physical activity for those lifelong benefits. So I appreciate the opportunity to always connect the community to physical education, to the parent involvement, and really creating that community of activity. And I see you all living it and doing it. So thank you for what you do.
Absolutely. Jeff?
Yeah, just to reiterate, thank you for connecting me to the wonderful professionals here. This conversation has been really uplifting and inspiring just to hear about Kelly's work and Spencer's story, and Amy and Jodie, you as a parent of a student athlete. This has been great. So I think parents out there, you can have a very active voice in helping create the right kind of sport experience for your kid in the middle school and high school level without overreaching. And look, you can connect your school folks to the AthLife Foundation at our website and learn more about our grants and our trainings and professional development offerings and other resources that we have for schools and educators to build these student athlete support and development programs and create those experiences.
Great. And what is the website again?
It's athlifefoundation.org.
Fantastic. And Spencer, any closing thoughts?
I'm just happy to be here talking to you both. This has been an amazing conversation with Kelly, with Jeff, and everybody here. And it's just, whenever I have an opportunity to come talk and essentially soften the landing for parents trying to understand how they can be beneficial to their student athlete's life, I'll never turn down that meeting.
Amazing. We'll have you back anytime you want.
Yes,
every time.
Season 6. And Spencer, also, where can people check out All American?
Yes, the first 7 seasons are on Netflix. We're currently filming season 8 right now. It's going to be our final season, so it's the end of an era. So if you want to watch the show, check it out on Netflix, and then we'll be on CW shortly.
Great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Make sure you head to our show notes where you can find all of the information, the web pages, and all of the resources that we've talked about in this show. And we will see you next time on Awkward Conversations.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for having me today. It was a wonderful conversation, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
That's it for today's episode of Awkward Conversations. I'm Jodie Sweetin. I'll see you next time. Imagine this. Your kids resilient and ready to tackle life's curveballs, all while having fun and learning through play. Sounds like a dream.
Children are biologically designed to develop through play. Through most of human history, children acquire the culture, children learn what they need to know, children practice the skills they need to know. And how do they do it? They do it through play. They've always done it through play.
Primates know how to play. We are primates. If we look at how other primates live and nurture, you see that play is a spontaneous generation of interaction that is critically important. The notion that like a toddler should be able to recite the alphabet, it's adorable. Is it as useful as other forms of play? Likely not.
We are living at a time and place when children are more deprived of play than they've ever been before. And we are seeing the consequences. We're seeing record levels of anxiety, depression, even suicide. And I'm absolutely convinced that this relates to the fact that we've been taking the method by which children acquire resilience, learn the skills that they need to deal with the bumps in the road of life. And we've also taken away the activities that in the immediate sense make children most happy.
Trying to maintain a sense of wonder about the world, which is really what play is supposed to foster, no matter what kind of primate you are.
Make sure to check out GetSmartAboutDrugs.com. Parents, caregivers, you can find so many resources of great information there about how to talk to your kids and make these conversations a little less awkward. A huge thank you to the ELPS DAP, which is the largest all-volunteer nationwide drug awareness program, and also a huge thanks to the DEA for their outreach program and for making this possible.
The views, information, or opinions expressed during the Awkward Conversation series are solely those of the individuals, speakers, commentators, experts, and/or hosts involved, and do not necessarily reflect nor represent those of the production, associates, or broadcaster, or any of its employees. Production is not responsible and does not verify for accuracy any of the information contained in the series available for viewing. The primary purpose of this series is to educate and inform. This series does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. This series is available for private, non-commercial use only. The production, broadcaster, or its channel cannot be held accountable for all or any views expressed during this program.